Hello and welcome to the Pet Healer Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Mitzi Vargas, and today I have my hero on the other line is Dr. Marty, and he's a famous veterinarian, one definitely a credit to our profession, and especially to all of us integrative and holistic practitioners, because he has brought to the forefront something that we all hold dear and near, and it is nutrition in our pets and how we don't really get all the information that is out there for the longevity and the benefit and wellness of our pets. And a lot of the diseases, chronic diseases, are caused by bad nutrition. So I am so excited to have you, Dr. Marty. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're super busy.
Nah, it's a pleasure to be here. This is my life now. Getting the
That's
message out because I love animals.
that's awesome. That's awesome. And I know you have a lot of um, pieces out there of information in social media and a lot of interviews. And I definitely want all my subscribers and my listeners to check you out, check your website, drmartypets.com, for more information on the mission that you have about nutrition. But first of all, for my subscribers, because we have a lot of veterinarians, but we have more pet owners listening to us. And so I know that they want to know, when did you decided to be a vet? Because that's the number one question everybody wants to know.
Well, I mean, I love dinosaurs, so I really wanted to be a paleontologist. My mother wanted me to be a nuclear physicist, but I couldn't pronounce it, so I just said forget that. My older brother, went to University of Pennsylvania, was becoming a veterinarian. And when he did, with my extreme love for animals, it was a no-brainer. I got accepted to Cornell undergrad, so it was easier to get into Cornell Veterinary College.
Uh-huh.
And that was it. I didn't want anything else.
Oh, okay. That's it. Is that or bust? Veterinarian or bust? Okay, good. That's the same. I think across who people that I know that are vets for a long time, and they feel as a vocation, not a profession. We get to do this and get paid for it and make a living out of helping animals, which is what we all want, right? So that's a privilege. That's a privilege.
But unfortunately, in the big picture, we are not really that successful of a profession. I love veterinary medicine. I love how technologically advanced we become. But I've witnessed, when I graduated Cornell in 1973, the vet school, I observed maybe 1 in 10 dogs got cancer. And it was always a disease of the old. So if we saw a young dog with a lump, we eliminated from our differential diagnosis, that's what it was called in those days, the possibility of cancer based solely on age.
Wow.
Recent study that I quoted in my last book, The Spirit of Animal Healing, in 2021, is 1 out of every 1.61 dogs in the United States now get cancer. And it's a very common disease in the young. So in the field of healthcare, we have failed. And it's not just cancer, it's every other chronic major degenerative disease is on the rise. So, I didn't learn much about healthcare when I was at Cornell. I had a 3-week course on nutrition, and it was more about arithmetics than about quality of food. How to balance certain percentages of protein and fats and carbohydrates. Had nothing to do with quality or biologically appropriate diet for a carnivore. Hello.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I bet you've witnessed a lot of changes in almost 50 years of practicing veterinary medicine, and even on the quality of the applicants and the quality of the vets that are coming out too, because they have been taught to refer everything and to look at the list of the X-rays and the blood work before you even do a diagnosis. So as an acupuncturist and a chiropractor, touching the animal. What happened to touching the animal? What happened to listening to the owner? What is the food? What is a common day for your pet? That's one of the open-ended questions that I ask, because there's so much information that you can get from just interviewing the owner. But I'm with you. I've been out 30 years. Coming 2023 will be, close to 30 years of me being a vet. And so obviously I've seen, like you, the rise in cancer. So is that why that made you to start your own company? Because there was nothing available at that time? Or, what made you start the Dr. Marty's Food Company?
Well, I got so ridiculed and criticized. My license was threatened in 1978 for treating arthritic dogs with glucosamine sulfate.
And now we use it.
I love that. I was certified in acupuncture. I started in 1975, and there was so much ridicule and condemnation. I kind of went into hiding, but I was making cases better that were terminally ill using nutrition, supplementation, intravenous vitamin C. So I started to get these cases from all over the United States. At one time, we did a survey. I had two associates at that time, but the survey was of just my clients. And over a 6-week period, my average client was 590 miles away from my practice.
Wow.
That's how much.
That's the hunger for a new alternative.
Yeah, they wanted it. Their animal was pronounced terminal, after $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 worth of therapy. And I was getting them better. And then it became a frustration because when you're dealing with a cancer patient, it's not a 1-hour consult.
No.
You have to monitor them through. They don't know weekends. And I had clients all over the United States, especially the West Coast. So if a cancer patient all of a sudden goes into a crisis at 10 o'clock at night, it's 1 o'clock in the morning here, and you got to be on that phone.
Yeah.
So it became a frustration. And I know that what I knew could reach millions of animals, society, and even the profession.
Yeah.
But I was still stuck seeing maybe a total of 6 to 7 animals a day. I was always financially behind, almost had to claim bankruptcy because it was hard to charge in those days for alternative therapy, because if you made one mistake, your license would be lifted because you weren't standardized therapy. And then I became very good friends with the actress Maggie Q, who was the original Nikita. She was in so many different TV shows and movies. And she knew more about nutrition than most veterinarians I've ever met. She was Vietnamese, born in Hawaii. We really hit it off. And she hooked up with a very big marketing company for her own products that were probiotics and green drink formulas. And then she was on me for about 6 months, telling me that I will spend the rest of my life struggling in this little practice unless I hook up with this company.
Wow.
And finally, I listened to her. I researched the company. They were the highest quality of product development, highest source quality of ingredients, and masters in dissemination of education. And all of a sudden, now I'm literally reaching millions. I mean, millions, and I'm getting thousands and thousands of testimonials of thank you from people all over the country. Even veterinarians are contacting me through my old practice that I still consult with, saying they had non-responsive cases that they gave up on. The people went online, bought my supplements and the food, and then the animals are normal. Can you teach me? Can I sell this stuff? So that's how the whole product, Dr. Marty Pet started and is flourishing. After 47 and a half years of intense struggle, I can't believe what's actually happening in my life. I'm just so used to struggling.
And everybody thinks that if you're successful, it was happenstance, stroke of good luck, and it just happened from one day to the next. But they didn't see 3 or 4 decades of your struggle and they didn't face the persecution that you face in your own profession, which is so sad to hear. I wasn't aware of your license, but this is something that I have faced when I started acupuncture 15 years ago. The local community, they just call me a witch. I'm like, a witch, you know? And nowadays, I feel like with Chi University and other schools doing at least a department, at least electives in integrated medicine, that maybe our profession is changing. But I can only imagine what you went through.
It was unbelievable. I don't know. Do you know anything about
the Doc? Oh yeah, I saw that you had that documentary.
Yeah, you know, what it did, it was one of my very, very dear clients who became a very close friend. She actually, I reversed her Shar-Pei that was supposed to be euthanized that day for persistent high fevers. Oh. And instead of euthanizing, she called my practice. I called her back Friday night at 11 o'clock at night because I was so busy. And she goes, "What doctor calls their client?" And it wasn't even my client. And I said, "What's going on?" And she said, "My dog has persistent high fevers, and antibiotics, aspirin, and cortisone are no longer working every time she runs these 107 fevers." And I said to her, I said, don't you realize that your dog's immune system is trying to do something and you keep on stopping it with drugs?
Yes.
And she said her life changed from that. So she went on to make films. Her first film about the original horse whisperer, Buck Brannaman, made the shortlist for the Academy Awards.
Wow.
Then she came to me and she goes, "You're next." So she came in, she filmed for 3 years. It was the most stressful time of my life. She never really captured the cases I became known for because she wouldn't do any old cases. And when a terminal ill animal comes in, not all are going to make it.
Yeah.
But the film is amazing. It was winning awards and festivals all over the United States. It was accepted by the Academy to be listed, and it premiered in a theater in New York City, scheduled for 3 in Hollywood the next week. And the next day, COVID shut the theater industry down.
Oh, wow.
It kind of got buried, but in all the festivals that I attended, when conventional veterinarians attended, every single one came up to me and gave me the thumbs up saying, "You really are showing integrative medicine and the need for it." So I just highly recommend it. What's great is
how can they get them? Everybody
it's all
watching?
over the internet, all over the platforms, Pluto, Amazon Prime.
Okay.
And 3 months ago, it got listed by Rotten Tomatoes in the top 100 nature documentaries of all time, even though it never got released into the public.
That's amazing.
So I just highly recommend it. Anyone who loves animals, have a box of tissue around too. But it's a great film. It just shows the need for both conventional medicine and alternative therapy. True holistic medicine is not the opposite of conventional medicine.
Exactly.
It's the umbrella over alternative and conventional therapy.
Yeah, I think that's where we should all be together in this, that it's a synergistic effect. It actually augments the success when you blend those alternative or complementary therapies with the Western. Because I feel like for acute disease, I always tell my clients, for acute disease, sometimes Western is the indication, but it is, I think, where Western fails is in chronic disease, where management and in the prevention,
Correct.
They have no regard for prevention, whereas with holistic or with acupuncture, with other modalities that are considered complementary, they really focus on prevention.
Absolutely. It's just, one of the stories I'm now writing for my third book is maybe 25 years ago, I turned around 2 severely sick dogs that were associated with Angel Memorial Hospital in Boston.
And that's for those of our subscribers that do not know about Angel Memorial, it's one of the top hospitals in the nation, and where there's a lot of internships and specialists incubated there in that hospital.
It is. One was a dog with an insulinoma of the pancreas. And when Angel did the follow-up sonogram, they couldn't find the tumor. And one was a dog with severe renal failure that was so bad that the dog's blood pressure was causing nosebleeds, and they failed therapy. And on intravenous vitamin C and nutraceuticals, the dog became normal. So they invited me to speak there. But
that must have made your head so big and or proud, because
it made my stomach churn, because the day before I went up there, I was called by the clinician, the resident who invited me, said, "Are you still coming?" And I said, "Absolutely." She goes, "I just want you to know that you'll be talking to a hostile crowd."
Ooh.
Because they don't like this kind of work. They're seeing holistic veterinarians take some of their patients that have cancer, taking them off drugs, putting them on a homeopathic remedy, and they're dying. So she said, "You still have time to back out." And I said, "No, I'm coming up." So I went into Angel Memorial thinking it was a big specialty facility. The entire waiting room was lined with science diet, which is not my favorite kind of food.
I don't carry it either.
While I was waiting at 7:30 in the morning, because I was speaking at 8 o'clock in the morning, I looked up and I counted the veterinarians on staff. It was 101 veterinarians on staff.
Wow.
I thought it was 12 or 14. So I got very, very nervous. And then about 80 veterinarians in very bad moods marched into this amphitheater with no windows, with cups of coffee, and they were glaring at me. And I thought, because in those days, there was nothing I could really verify, because I was not a researcher. I was just a single person practitioner. And they were going to kill me with science. And I felt it. And I just stood there and I froze. And I looked at them and I said, "I just want you to know that I know what you're thinking about me, because I used to sit over there and I know what it's like to go from over there over to here. Matter of fact, when I sat there, I was number 2 in my class in Cornell. So I really know what you're thinking about." And then I said, "What I'm going to show you today is true holistic medicine. But I know what you're used to is what I call ass-holistic medicine." And they started to applaud, and 2 of them stood up and gave me a standing ovation.
That's good.
I showed 186 slides in 50 minutes on non-responsive cases that we turned around, and it just turned their entire concept around.
That's excellent.
So that's what it is. There's a lot of veterinarians out there that are putting up an emblem that they're holistic because they're selling vitamin C or glucosamine, and they're really giving our profession a bad reputation. And I refer to them as ass holistic.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot, and there's some modalities that have evidence-based, results, and that, especially with acupuncture, there's a big effort to put out more and more research papers, and even neurologists are now teaching acupuncture, which I think is a great gain, for our field, But and I think that when it comes to pain, people are more open to CBD, to other things. But when it comes to nutrition, I feel like we're still in a big war, and especially can you comment on the FDA intervening with the with the big warning when there was no evidence, or enough evidence to say what was happening, and there isn't still any smoking gun when it comes to the grain-free diets, and with grain-free diets, they put all the small batch type companies and raw diets in the whole batch, like bad for you, causing heart disease, and it's a cross, is 100% don't use. And so I saw large numbers of my clients coming back to me, but you put me on Dr. Marty's or Just Food for Dogs, or you put me on a home cooked balanced diet, and it has grains, or it doesn't have grain, but it has sweet potatoes, because now or legumes, and they were completely against legumes and sweet potatoes. So would you give me your perspective on that whole fiasco?
Yeah. First of all, I befriended an agent from the FDA who was her mentor, was the guy that wrote one of the original Bibles in alternative therapy called The Green Pharmacy. And when he passed, she inherited all his work and his medicinal plant garden. She went into the FDA under the title of the microbiome, and she was showing how different levels of the soil affect the food chain that affect the health of humans. And recently she was put over to the head of the animal division, and she's one of us. She's truly holistic. She actually has a grant paper now that she's presenting to the FDA to show how dry kibble actually harms dogs' lives.
Wow.
Yeah, she's a trip. And I just got her appointed onto the board of the American Holistic Veterinary Medical Foundation.
Excellent.
So I have an in there. You know, the FDA did not come out and state this. They actually published or posted not even a correlation study, is just that they're seeing a rise in the heart disease complex in dogs, and that some of them were on grain-free diets. That all of a sudden turned into a viral rumor. So here's the scoop. Number one, there is nothing in a grain that supports the heart health of a dog.
Yeah.
There is no ingredient in rice or corn that makes dogs' hearts healthy, period. What it is like you said before, is first of all, a lot of these grain-based diets or the grain-free diets, the meat sources were of so low quality, these boutique diets that were grain-free, that they weren't getting their proper source of meat protein, especially taurine and L-carnitine. Then, when all of a sudden this thing hit, then we were getting the substitutes for the grains, which are the pulses that contain the lectins. They block the utilization and absorption of taurine across the intestine.
Yeah.
Also, they contain mycotoxins, which damage the heart wall. My own thing that I wrote in my last book, and I did some research, is that so many of these grain substitutes are grown on farms that are GMO based. In order to have a very successful GMO farm, you need glyphosate, Roundup. And if you look at the Institute of Responsible Technology, you'll see studies that the glyphosate level in dogs' urine is 30 times greater than the studies of human urine. And look how many lawsuits there are right now against Monsanto on people that have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma because of glyphosate.
And TCC.
Look online and you'll see studies where glyphosate damages the heart muscle. So I'm thinking, I don't know if there's correlation studies yet, is that so many of the things used to substitute for the grains contain glyphosate, which are causing cardiomyopathy, but we don't see that. The thing that really bothered me among my clients were not so many that were going onto a high quality grain-based diet, but so many of my clients that were feeding incredibly biologically appropriate diets were suddenly adding 3 cups of brown rice or corn to their food, thinking there was something in the corn that their dog's heart needed. And it's just bull.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we had a lot of work with that too. A lot of people, the confusion and people coming, and it's like, well, we do recommend raw diets for certain cases, and we recommend your food actually, and some of your supplements as well. So, there's other foods that we recommend, but we never thought that the dogs should eat fillers like wheat or corn or any other grains, and they're usually just there just to make the dog food cheap. I think that dog food was invented for humans. It is a convenience for us. It wasn't with the dogs in mind.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in the old days, it was kind of better. It was a horse meat diet. One of the big things that affected the pet food industry was World War II.
Oh,
They had to ration the metal to make ammunitions, so they couldn't put anything into a can. So they started to create dry dog food.
wow.
And I mean, realize the number one selling food of all time, and the company is starting to make some major improvements, is Purina. Purina
Yeah.
is made by a company called Ralston, which in 1897 was the Danforth Corporation. 1901 changed their name to Ralston Purina. Ralston makes wheat checks, rice checks, and corn checks.
They have their materials there.
That's right. Show me one tooth in a dog or a cat's mouth that's flat for grinding corn.
Exactly.
Or, when Martha Stewart gave me my own show in 2007 and on Sirius satellite radio, and then invited me on her TV show a whole bunch of times, she allowed me to put up her producers the formula for a identical food to one of her sponsors, obviously without the name. And the first ingredient was corn. And they allowed me to turn to Martha and say, Martha, have you ever seen a dog stalk an ear of corn? And her producer of 40 years was also my producer of my show, told me that they received more calls that day after that comment than they did in the last 3 months of Everyday Martha Stewart show. And, it just, if you actually look, I wrote in one of the fundamentals of my last book of how nature heals the body is that my definition of science in the field of medicine is man trying to figure out what nature created.
Yep.
We, as I said before, we become so technologically advanced. We know every biophysical, every biochemical pathway in the body, every point, NAD, anything on that thing. We could do MRIs with dye studies that could show a tumor that big in the spinal cord. But guess what? We didn't create that. Nature did. So unfortunately, what's going on is we've accepted scientifically appropriate diets for dogs and cats, even horses and guinea pigs and everything like that. What we don't feed is biologically appropriate food.
Amen. Yeah. Yeah, they're not machines. And this is the thing, it's like you analyze all the components and you think that they're a car, and then you're gonna give them this percentage, but every pet is different. Every age is different. So epigenetics, the field of epigenetics is playing a big role now in the finding out why do we create cancer? Why do we create all these autoimmune diseases? And we see that nutrition is one of the main avenues. And in Chinese medicine, nutrition is the gu qi, the energy of the food, is the only way that we can replenish that energy that we're born with, the Jing energy. And so what you're saying resonates, and it to me is like you're preaching to the choir here, and some of our listeners that know that too, that it is what you eat. It definitely is. It is the stress that you're around, right?
It all starts with, how do you think I started this? I came out of Cornell in 1973 and said, I think I'm going to go into holistic medicine. The word didn't exist in the dictionary. I was genetically losing my own health. I had so many different conditions. All the males on my mother's side of the family that I took after and had the same exact conditions, every single one is dead at least 8 to 35 years. They're dead.
Wow.
I had the same conditions. So I started to search out of fear and vanity. I mean, I'll be 77 in the next 5 months. I'm 58 years older than my youngest daughter. I haven't been sick in 40 years. And
Excellent.
I'm, after retirement from clinical practice, I'm having a very good time in life now. I still haven't even applied the stuff that I learned, but the physical body can go to and enjoy life easily 110 or 120, easily, because the cell has the ability to replicate. And if you damage it over and over again, it will stop replicating. But if you catch it before it's lost its chi, as you said before, it can heal and replicate. I mean,
Yes.
I know that. And it's just, the body can be rejuvenated. When I was at my 50-year Cornell Vet School reunion 3 months ago, first of all, I looked at least 20 years younger than all my classmates. And they were coming up to me and go, well, what are you doing? Can you teach me this and that? But I met with the new head of clinical sciences. He's been at Cornell. He's from Colorado State. He's been there for 2 years. Totally cool guy. And I sat him in a room and I showed him a 90-minute PowerPoint presentation of case after case of dogs treated at the universities, at the specialty hospitals with severe, horrible, malignant cancer, given 4 to 6 weeks. And then I showed each case alive 4 to 9.5 years later with the blood work, with quadruple biopsies, and this and that. And I just sat back and said, you can't do this. That's it. Why doesn't a facility like Cornell want to learn how to do this if they truly love animals? And he goes, man, I got it. I'm going to start a whole campaign here to infiltrate you through, because I'm so confident now with my thousands of documented cases. They're not going to listen to me. They're going to listen to the cases.
Yeah.
We have proof. My advantage was I won the photographic award, the photography award at the Cornell Vet School. I got $50. I was really into photography. So when I graduated, I photographed everything, not to prove it, because I loved photography. Then all of a sudden, these cases started to turn around and I had it all photographed. So I started to do Kodak slide presentations, and now it's PowerPoints, and it's all there. I could show anybody, I don't care who it is, the dean of this school or that school, look at this case, look at the documentation, look at the blood work, look at the kidney values off the scale, and now look at this case 6 years later and look at the kidney values normal. This is not photoshopped.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. So what you're saying is you apply the same things that you use for yourself and your family and your loved ones, you are doing for your patients and everybody that reaches out to you, And so in your last book, The Spirit of Animal Healing, do you can you give us a little synopsis of what are gems that everybody listening, first of all, everybody listening should go buy it, but that they can take home a take-home gem from The Spirit of Animal Healing that they might not realize?
Well, what's interesting is that I wrote my first book in 1999. It was The Nature of Animal Healing. And I co-wrote it with the cover story writer from Vanity Fair magazine. So it's a really well-written book. Matter of fact, 4 months ago, we just learned that Book Authority, the website Book Authority, is now listing it, or has listed it, as the #1 best-selling veterinary medicine book of all time.
Wow.
Which is a trip. And nature had 2 meanings. The nature in which the body heals, and that nature is the healer, not the doctor. Doctor is just a guide. Now, the spirit of animal healing, it was almost 20-something years later, and everything that I observed and learned since then. So it's totally different than the nature of animal healing.
But it complements it.
Spirit also has 2 meanings. It is, in the spirit of healing, and that the spiritual connection between the animal kingdom and the human kingdom. And this is not hocus pocus, airy fairy stuff. How many radio waves or gamma rays or sound waves are hitting your body right now, but they're out of the realm of your five senses?
Yeah.
There are over 53 energetic electromagnetic frequencies in the electromagnetic scale in the physical universe. The human race has 5. If I were to take an infrared photograph of you and your dog, I would see 2 overlapping fields in the infrared spectrum. There is a huge transference of energy on the
And
level
information.
of not only disease, but healing on that spectrum. So the spiritual aspect, dogs now know if you're going to have a seizure up to 24 hours before your seizure. They're 90-something% positive in sniffing out lymph cancer, bladder cancer in people's. They have perceptions we don't.
Yeah.
So we as veterinarians have to start, like you said it before, they don't put their hands on the patient. They go to the book, they go to their computer. And it's just, and I wrote in the book, and I saw this so many times. I was seeing people from all over the United States, but when I got to see a local client, I had the time to take blood work and figure out a program that I could start 2 days later. Instead of, some of the terminal cancer patients I sent home on 8 to 10 supplements, they're going back to California, their plane's leaving the next morning. I'm loading them up on supplements. We don't have time. But some of the local ones, I was able to say, let me take blood work. You live 5 miles away. I'll have a program in 2 days for you. And they called the next day for the blood work, but I started every single case. They know their dog is going to die. They've been told their dog is going to die by the experts. I start the first half hour by showing them before and after cases, just to turn their viewpoint on hopelessness around. Not false hope, that there is hope. They walk in not knowing what they're doing there. They're depressed. They're looking down and this and that. And they leave in great mood, smiling. Oh my God, we got a chance. They call the next day to get the blood results. And I go, by the way, how's she doing? She says, she's already better. We didn't do anything except turn their viewpoint around. So one of the big takeaways on that book is that there is a higher level of therapy. Acupuncture, homeopathy. I present cases of homeopathic remedies. You'll see one in the documentary.
Okay, great.
It's a Himalayan cat that was treated at Oradell Animal Clinic, is one of the biggest specialty facilities on the East Coast in New Jersey. And this cat had every joint in its body fused. Their diagnosis was progressive fusing polyosteoarthropathy. I never heard of that. And it could only move from its head up. It was on 2 different antibiotics and cortisone for 2 months, and they recommended euthanasia.
Wow.
And the photographs of this cat are in the documentary. I didn't know what to do. And the only thing I could think of was to get the cat onto supplements, off the drugs. They would come back in about 3 weeks. On all the drugs, I didn't want to anesthetize this cat because of liver function. And I was going to, it was something I learned when I took orthopedics called de-ankylosis. Mm-hmm. You take a joint or a fracture that heals wrong, and you put them under anesthesia, and you refracture it, and you reset it in the right position. So I was going to de-ankylose every joint in this cat's body. It was either that or euthanasia. So I take blood samples on the cat. I send the cat home on a remedy and 2 supplements, and I give this cat an injection from Germany of Zeal, made for chronic arthritis. 0.7 of a cc of a remedy that we know contains less than 1 part per billion of an active ingredient. They get home and they call me and they go, I can't believe Fia is walking. and I go, I need you to come back here because I think you're setting me up. Who set you up for this? And they go, no, honest, we're not setting you up. She's walking, and we have photographs of this cat 2 weeks later, perfectly normal.
Amazing.
And then she calls the clinician at Oradell to tell the clinician what happened. And the clinician's response is, we are so happy for you. Why didn't the clinician call me to say, what did you do? They recommended euthanasia. I would be at Oradell the next day to study what they did. What is the resistance
Yeah.
to learn something that can make your patient better, veterinarians? Come on.
Yeah, I like that soap box too, because it's just, I don't understand why they have to negate. They can negate the results, but they can't negate that you had any part of it. Oh, it was just a spontaneous remission. And like, how many spontaneous remissions of stuff do you see?
And I would put these cases up, and I still do this. And I go, and you know, the big criticism I got, if your cases are so great, why haven't you published and documented? I'm a clinician. I'm not a researcher. I'm not going to take 3 of my dogs with lymphoma and put one on a placebo and put one on chemo and this and that to prove anything.
Yeah.
This is what you need to do. And I said, and also, you know, I've been approached by so many companies to prove that their product that I was using worked. And I said, I'm not going to take any of my cases and just put them on one product to prove that it works. So I don't know which of the multifaceted supplements I did. I don't even know if it's the fact that some vibration actually hit Mecca at a certain time that I don't know what it was. I don't care. Look at these animals better. And now we need your cooperation to help us. I want to send you after this. You know, I got nominated to the board of the American Holistic Veterinary Medical Foundation. And I'm
Congratulations.
I'm getting, I told you I got a member of the FDA on there.
Excellent.
And there is this amazing lady. Her name is Karen Arison. And she is subsidizing the Cornell Vet School in alternatives. She puts on every year at the Cornell annual conference in October, where veterinarians are coming for lectures from all over the country. She puts on a concert for the animals. And she actually has these 2 world-class violinists come in with their Stradivarius violins that puts on this amazing concert for the attendees. But then they go and play in the large animal clinic, and they play to the animals in the small animal clinics, and you watch the interaction to music and to stuff like that. The first time I met this lady 4 years ago, when she introduced the concert, she gave out 5 scholarships to 5 of the Cornell clinicians to be certified at the Chi Institute in acupuncture. This lady is a trip, and she is on the board now. We actually put together a 5-minute video of 4 different people that's going to bring attention to the American Holistic Veterinary Medical Foundation, because they are raising money to do the studies to get published into the literature that are proving this. And that video was created Monday. And I want to send it to you. It is
Send it
just
to me.
5 minutes. We're going to launch it on all the social media platforms. You could launch it, and it's a trip, because this is what is needed.
Yeah.
Because veterinarians, the new age of it, when I went to Cornell, it was a class of 60, 58 males and 2 females. That was it.
Not anymore.
Now Cornell is 83% female. So the entire profession is shifting to a more open-hearted energy, and they want to know this. They don't know it exists because they're subsidized by the drug companies, the food companies.
I feel like there's a nurturing spirit that the females bring to the profession that I feel it definitely will help. But we need trailblazers like you to show the way, to show with the experience, the experience that you have in the field. It's so valuable, and it needs to be shared, and it continue. I encourage you to continue what you're doing for so
Oh,
long. Do
don't.
not quit, Dr. Marty. Don't leave
I
us.
have
Don't leave
I
us
have
hanging.
no back. After you'll see it in the documentary.
Yeah.
My veterinary hospital once was 268 square feet.
Whoa, that's a room.
My exam room was my surgery room. We couldn't afford heat or air conditioning. People were driving 2,000 miles with their dog with cancer. And during the exam, which was a fluorescent light hanging from a chain over my exam table, they had to wear their winter coats because they saw their breath. We couldn't afford heat. So I've been there. I know what it's like to struggle. 2007, I scored Martha Stewart and Oprah Winfrey as clients. Martha
That's
gave me my own
amazing.
show. Oprah had me on her show. And I share this with any vet school saying, I didn't score these two powerful women, maybe two of the three most powerful women on the planet, because of my looks or personality. It's because this stuff works. These people
Yeah.
are sharp and they want this. And if you don't start to wake up to embrace this, that society wants you to embrace, you're going to fall off the bandwagon and you are not going to be a successful veterinarian. So it's time to wake up.
Time to wake up.
I have no back off.
Excellent. Well, we need that. We need that. We thank you so much for your time, and please, I will mention your website too, drmartypets.com. For all our subscribers, please go there because there's a lot of information about you, about your mission, about your products. They have basically it's a way of feeding raw that is easy and convenient. I feel like this is where we lost that way many years ago, like you say, after World War II, the raw processing of the when you freeze dry the food, you keep all the nutrients intact. And so that's so key. Instead of pasteurizing at high temperature, breaking change and changing molecular level of these ingredients, why not do what you did? That's a very clever way of doing something that is convenient, yet we're not compromising on what the nutrition that we're giving our patients. So I really love Dr. Marty's food. I recommend it to my clients. And so I am really ecstatic. I got to interview my hero. So yours was Oprah.
Freeze drying process is a trip.
I think it's a great idea.
It blew me away because, like you said, it seals in the highest level of nutrition at the point of freeze drying. It takes the water out so you don't have pathogens. It knocks the shipping weight down tremendously. You don't need refrigeration to ship or to store. So it's like having 5 slices of cake and eat it too. And there's a lot of really good freeze-dried foods on the market. What makes mine different, if you look at the label, any kind of processing that didn't have what we patented is going to destroy something. So to make AFCO regulations under the FDA, they have to add all these thiamine, nitrate, selenium sulfide back in, and they're added in synthetic form. Our food scientists that I work with, if you look at the label of our food, it only contains food. We made APCO regulations where with food is supplying every single vitamin, nutrient, and mineral, and it's just a trip. And I just love it.
And it's the difference between using the food as therapy, in my opinion, not just good nutrition, but using it specifically for the cancer patients. That's the best food to give. And so that's one thing that I want to put out there for our listeners, that the cancer battle, half of it is won by the food. Hippocrates said, let food be thy medicine. So I think that you took that to heart. You took it to heart and you ran with it. And we congratulate you for that.
It all starts with food. Do you know the tie, if you have another minute, between the soap industry and the pet food industry?
No.
You know how we used to make soap back in the 50s and earlier?
Using
enzymatic action on lard.
Yeah. From whales and everything.
Yeah, in the late 50s and 60s, we created phosphates, synthetics. So, they were cheaper, they were more stable. So what did the soap industry do with the millions and millions of tons of fat they no longer needed? They put it into the pet food industry.
Oh.
Fat oxidizes and goes rancid rapidly. So what did we have to create? The preservative.
Yeah, preservative.
It was BHA, BHT, and this wonderful preservative that was created by the Monsanto company that creates glyphosate to stabilize the rubber on tires, called ethoxyquin. And I used to do presentations with scientific evidence how dogs that died of ethoxyquin poisoning had liquefaction of the liver. So their liver, brown liver cells, turned to liquid.
Wow.
Ethoxyquin is now illegal to put into dog food, but unfortunately, if a company buys like a fish or a chicken that has ethoxyquin in it and it goes in their food, it doesn't have to get listed on the label. So it's still making its way into pet food. And this is where, like you said, it all starts with food. So the listeners have to really become educated on what to look for. It's not just, pieces of salmon and vegetables falling from the sky on the packaging. They have to look at the label and understand, even if they see the first ingredient, it is meat, and they go, oh, wow, yeah, my dog's a carnivore, my cat is an obligate carnivore. Look at the rest of the label, because what will happen is the second, third, fourth, sixth, seventh, and eighth ingredient will be a different form of cereal. Quinoa, oatmeal, brown rice, and this and that. Add them all up together, the food is 65% cereal, but it looks like chicken is the first ingredient, or beef. Become educated.
Yeah,
or just read the book. It's
clean food and clean environment, that's all influencing our epigenetics. And that's, I think, is the key to your success, is that you focus on that and the prevention and the treatment of the chronic disease using what's the clean food and your positivity, because you're a charming person, but also your heart comes through when you speak, your passion and your heart comes through. You want to help the animals, you want to heal. So you are also a pet healer, like our podcast.
Yeah, kind of. And supplements play, my number one role was nutritional supplements.
Yeah.
Even a healthy animal, born healthy on a really good diet, we've adulterated the gene pool over the generations so much. We've adulterated the food industry, even the soil content of the earth. Head of lettuce doesn't have now what it used to have 100 years ago.
Yep.
So my definition of a nutritional supplement is a concentrated food to make up of the deficiencies in the food chain. So I think a healthy young animal on a very good diet should also be in nutritional supplements, because they're no longer born healthy. We messed it up.
Yeah. Amen. Okay.
Amen.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Dr. Marty. And I'm going to post all the links to your website, and I'm going to try to search where to get that and put it on our links on our social media as well for your books and your DVD, because I think that we can just have a good time listening to somebody that's been doing the job for so long. Thank you so much. And again, you're an inspiration to me and to a lot of integrated practitioners. So we'll be in the sidelines going, hooray, go, keep going.
My most important focus in life is to have veterinarians like you.
Thank you.
If I could get another 5,000 to 8,000 veterinarians just like you, I could go to my grave knowing I did it.
You run the race. Thank you so much. And just hit the subscription button and the bell so you can get our next episode. And until then, stay well.